Hi, I'm Christine D. Pasquale. Write what you know. That's what I heard when I entered the publishing industry 18 years ago. It worked for me as I built a successful career writing and reporting about religion for a variety of national outlets. Without really thinking about it, this is what I did for my thesis project. I created an interactive digital story from animated watercolor characters and paper collaged backgrounds. It takes place in a universe populated by communications modes who are grappling with rapid change brought on by the digital revolution. But it's a world that continues to privilege the status quo, and my story's protagonist, Cursive, decides to fight back for herself and for other women. Obsolete No More is an interactive digital website built with my artwork and animation by MFAVN alum Christina Madison Ebert. On launch, it takes you to a page that tells you how to work the interactive elements of the story. From there, you can go to the main menu where you'll find a list of scenes, my bio, a link to the first chapter of the story, and a section where you can meet the characters, all of whom are anthropomorphized communications modes. You'll notice that Cursive is represented by the C of her hair, while print is a P when turned sideways. Latin is an L. Dolphin is pixelated to represent the fact that he's a digital native, as are the emojis, who are Adobe fonts. You can interact with the story by clicking through animations, scene by scene, interaction by interaction. You can click on thought bubbles, where you will read Cursive's thoughts, which are a little bit less legible than her dialogue because our thoughts are private and we can't read each other's thoughts. You can click on her dialogue bubbles and get a print translation because so many people don't read Cursive anymore. And finally, you can click back to chapter 1 of the story on an external website, which I created last year as an interactive PDF, and that will become relevant as we get further into the presentation. So, a few of the things I know that inform this story universe are journalism, publishing, the digital revolution, code, user experience, web design, syntax, and grammar. In every professional setting I've worked in, whether the context was public television, vocational ministry, magazine journalism, or nonprofit science communications, as I was engaging in learning these new skills and applying them to my work, I did so while contending with these other things that I know all too well: professional rivalry, patriarchy and white male privilege, sexism and ageism, sexual harassment. The most egregious situation took place after I turned an influential coworker into police for being a suspected pedophile. Afterwards, the CEO of the organization instructed my boss to remove my name from future printings of more than a dozen books that I had either edited or ghostwritten. Notice on the covers of these books that unlike the male author, women are defined by their husband's jobs rather than their own. By the time I got to the book on the left, I had gained enough clout to negotiate for recognition for my work. But the consequences of that situation have continued to ripple through my personal and professional life for more than a decade. Often it has been female friends and colleagues who have provided the support I've needed to continue thriving. This is what my story is about: a woman like me who has built a successful career while confronting the ways in which our patriarchal social structure rewards heterosexual white men at the expense of everyone else. The main character, Cursive, is a midlife career woman who must pivot both personally and professionally after she is deemed obsolete and laid off from her publishing job, while her male lifelong friend and colleague Print is considered always relevant and promoted. Print is a stand-in for heterosexual white men and doesn't comprehend the depth of his own privilege. Dolphin GIF and the emojis are newer, younger communications modes that replaced Cursive at the publishing house where she worked. They simultaneously respect her and want to leverage her reputation to improve their own. She must decide whether to view them as rivals or embrace them as colleagues and collaborators. Latin is a peer who acts as a mentor for Cursive, challenging her to stand in her own power and confront the forces that are causing her trouble. During this time of unexpected transition, Cursive opens herself up to romance in ways she never has before and is thrown off kilter by an onslaught of unruly emotions. As she reassesses her priorities, she ultimately adapts, forging a new path for herself with the other women in her network. This has been the story of my life as well, and a goal for me as a nonfiction writer in the visual narrative program has been to gain new storytelling skills that allow me to discuss deeply personal experiences like these under the veil and privacy of fiction. I also wanted to add new interactive storytelling skills to my toolbox that will help me create the kinds of stories I've been dreaming about since 2012, when I saw this groundbreaking interactive story in the New York Times, and it put me on the path that brought me to this point in my creative journey. Cursive is not me, but she is inspired by my experiences. This is my life goal right here. She's an everyday superhero whose story is not over. I'll be wrapping up her adventures with a third chapter and a unified design that brings chapters 1, 2, and 3 together for a cohesive story experience. I hope her story inspires women and challenges men. I hope people enjoy it along with the world and characters I've created as much as I do. Thank you. Questions? Anyone?
Who was your mentor, and how did you develop the media?
My mentor is a collage and animation sort of GIF artist named Catherine Streeter, who does editorial illustration. And we just, she had some great ideas. For example, pixelating Dolphin was her idea. Because I just had kind of a watercolor of Dolphin, and she thought because he's a digital native, I should, look at some of those filters. And I didn't take all of her advice. For example, we thought about doing the backgrounds in black and white, and I just was really flat for me. I like color. I like layering color. And so I tried that. It didn't work out for me, and I went back to what was my own instinct, which was to use a lot of color, kind of like you do. So, anybody else? Pilar?
I love your mixed media approach, and how much of it is mixed media, and how much of it is digital, and how much of it is analog on paper scan.
So the backgrounds are all collage paper, and something significant there. I'm a big fan of The Sun magazine, which is a personal narrative magazine that has great photography. So for example, I have a collection of The Sun magazine that I've had for many years, and so I cut out pictures very carefully without damaging the words in the magazines. And so these two characters in the front of this image are both from The Sun magazine. And I also, some of the background image actually here is from an SVA alumni magazine, so I was trying to use things that had some personal meaning to me. And then the characters were watercolor and pen and ink. They were based on some medieval letter characters that I saw, and I just adapted them. The Latin character was modeled after a friend who, if you come to the reception on Friday, you may meet. Jelly.
I know you brought up that you're going to continue Cursive's journey in your third chapter, but with going off of what Pilar said about the mixed media, do you have any other projects in mind for doing this kind of storytelling? I know you are very inspired by Snowfall and that kind of.
Well, actually, combining those two questions. So I just did this in simple frame animations. That's really good for me. I don't really want to get much more technical than that. But I really want to go back into journalism. I've been working in nonprofit communications for the past 6 years, and so I want to take these skills and apply them in journalism as a mixed media story editor. That's my goal. So thanks for asking.